Okay, so just a little bit of guidance for a couple of these, just to give you a little bit of a head start, especially if you're still struggling through this. You want to write array 11. So given an array of ints, compute recursively the number of times the value 11 appears in the array. So we'll consider only the part of the array that begins at the given index. So again, recursive functions, we don't have like a bunch of ways to communicate stuff across the different recursive calls. The way that we communicate is through the parameters. The parameters really indicate the state of where we're at. And so it's saying we're going to communicate where we're at through this index. So we're going to pass not just the int array numbers, but also where we're at. So this guy would have 1 11, this guy has 2 11s, this guy has no 11s. So we need to come up with a way to scan the array without using a loop, that would be iterative, recursively. Okay? And so, again, only do this if you've already tried, but you can pause the video and try it yourself. Otherwise, we're going to talk shortly now about how to do this problem, one way to do it. Okay? So, let's go ahead and try this then. If you can't quite figure it out, that's all right. Let's think about, all right, so my recursive call. All right, I've got my base case, when do I stop? And I've got my recursive call. Okay, so what should my recursive call look like? How do I progress further and further? So what's my, oh, actually, I should answer, what's my base case? When do I stop? Well, when am I done? Is I'm kind of going through each index here, right? So index 0, index 1, index 2. When I reach here, when I reach the end, index 3 in this case, or here, index 0, 1, 2, 3. When I reach index 4, that means I'm done, right? So when this index, which kind of traverses through everything, reaches the end, or in this case, nums.length, that means I'm done. So if index equals nums.length, we're going to do something. We don't know yet, but some kind of return. Return something. Now it's an int, so I'm going to return some value. Okay. All right. What's my recursive call? So it's at each step, I'm either going to have an 11 or I'm not going to have an 11. So let's say I'm at index 0. Right? Let's say I'm at index 0. In this one, I do not have an 11, so I'm going to pass along 0, right? I don't have 11 here. Whereas if this is the case, I do have an 11. So I want to count that. I want to count that as 1, right? And here I count that as 0. So you kind of want to look and actually want to make different recursive calls based off of what we see here. Okay, so let me give you an example. So here, right, here, at first my index is 0, right? So if index is 0 and this is my array, I'm just looking at this guy, this term right here. Since it's 11, I want to count that as 1, 11, right? So I'm going to say call the next, scan the next number, right? So call it with index being 1, but also do 1 plus whatever the result of calling array is with this guy, right? So in other words, I just know that I've got 1 here, plus I'm going to make this recursive call to whatever the rest of this is. I don't know how many 11s are going to be the rest of this array, but I know it'd be 1 plus whatever this result is. And again, that's the whole thing with recursion. You don't know what this is until you finish, and then it kind of comes back up the result. And so then it comes over to here, and I look at index 1. So I'm looking at this term right here, this term right here. So this is not an 11. Okay, so this is not an 11, so then I say, okay, the result of this is going to be, well, this is not 1, so it's going to be 0 plus, right, 0 plus whatever the result is of calling array 11 with index being 2. Right, so then, okay, so again, I don't know what this result is, but I just wait until the recursion's done, and then I'll know. So then I come over, and now I'm looking at this one, index 2. This is an 11. So what is the result of this? Well, it's 1. It's 1 plus whatever the result is of calling 11 to 11 with index 3. Index 3. And so again, there is no index 3. I would get an out of bounds exception here. But this, luckily, I have hit, right? This 3 equals the length, right? The length is 3. This equals that. So this is my base case. So I stop. So since this should return an int, what int should this return? Well, clearly I'm off the edge here. So base case, I'm going to return 0. When I hit this base case, that means there's no more 11s once I'm off the edge. So I'm going to return 0. Okay, so what is the result of, in this case, proper case, it's 1 plus 0. Right, so that's going to report back this to be 1. And then that's going to 0 plus 1, that's going to report this back to be a 1. And then report back 1 plus 1, that's going to report back the total is 2. Right? So again, you're calling it kind of going down. You don't know what this is until you go all the way down. And okay, 1 plus 0, that gives me a 1. 1 plus 0, that gives me a 1. 1 plus 1, that gives me a 2. And now I'm done. Okay? So let's just write this as code. Okay, let's just write this as code. So coming back, if index equals nums.length, I want to return 0 because there's no more. There's no more. The recursive call, I'm going to say if the value, so nums at index, so I'm looking at index, so it starts off with 0, then 1. If it's 11, if it equals 11, I want to, and again, I need to return this recursive call 1 plus whatever the result of the call is to array 11. I'm not changing the array, so I'm just going to call it with nums. Now, what is the recursive call? I can't just call nums index, right? That would be the exact same call, and so you just have an infinite recursion here. You need to move towards this base case, right? The base case is once, okay, 0, 1, 2, and then bam, done, right? So how do you progress towards that base case? It should be index plus 1. Right, that's how we start off looking at index 0. Next time I look at index 1, then 2, then 3. Okay, so if I discover 1, I kind of go down. I go down this branch right here, 1 plus this result. If I look and it's not, I should return 0 plus this recursive call. Okay, so if it's not, else I'm going to return 0 plus whatever the result is of that plus 1. Okay, and if I run that, that should be good to go. Okay, we'll do one more here using a string one. Again, try this on your own first, and then you could take a look. So all star, I want to recursively compute a new string where every character is separated by this star here, asterisk. So for hello, it should be H star, E star, L star, L star, O star. So what am I going to do? How do I know? Again, we want to think of our base case and our recursive call. What am I doing with the string? Like, right, for ints, it's like I count up or I count down to 0 or 1. Or for that array example, like I keep going till the index is like the end. When would I know that I've reached, for example, the end of my string or something? I could work with an index, or I could start with the string and gradually break it down smaller and smaller and smaller until I reach the string being nothing. So I'm going to start with hello. I'm going to separate it out one by one by one. I'm going to keep concatenating a little star on each step. And so if I do that, and when I get down to the string's length being 0, that would be maybe the end. So let's try a little rough draft here. So base case, I'm saying I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to gradually just keep shrinking it down, down, down. Again, I communicate the state. Right? I communicate the state through the string parameter, right? str parameter. So this starts off as hello, and maybe it's going to become HELL, and then HEL, and then HE, and then H, and then 0 perhaps. So I'll say, okay, if str.length is 0, well, I'll think about what to do then. Okay? Otherwise, my recursive call. So what should the recursive call be? Well, I want to concatenate a star between the L and the O. So I'm going to do hello, so hell, plus O with a star in the middle. Okay, so, and I want to repeat that process, right? Not just that one thing. So how do I grab this guy? Well, I could just simply take the substring from up into hell and then not including O. So remember, substring goes from the beginning up into the second character minus 1. So I could just define, okay, int, some kind of ending index, or index as the string's length minus 1, or you could just put that in line. Okay? So, so I could say, okay, I'm going to return, again, I'm returning a string this time, not an int. Whatever the result of all star is from the substring from 0 up to end index. So let me just pause there. What is this saying? From 0 up to end index. Since the index goes up to length -1, it would be just getting me hell from hello, just the hell. So that concatenated with star, right? That would give me the star. And then how do I grab this O? Well, that would be the that would just be the substring starting at the end index, right? In this case, like for this example, the length of the string is 5, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be starting at the end index. So concatenated with str.substring from the end index. Right, that's the shortcut for starting there to the end. Okay, so and let's think. What is our base case? So if I call this, let's just kind of plot this out here. Okay, so I start with. So I start with hello. I want to call it on the substring, not HELLO, but just HELL plus this star plus the O, right? I'm just going. So it's like concatenate this to whatever this is. We don't know what the result is. That's recursion, right? And then so this is going to call all star on HEL, and it's going to add on the star L. And then this is going to concatenate HE with star L. And then this is going to concatenate, and we keep shrinking it down, 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 H plus star E. So I think to myself, oh, okay, so if I go down, all star, so I shrink this down one more, empty string, okay, plus star H, right? So let's think about that. So it looks like maybe when I get down to here, this is my base case, right? I get to the empty string. When the length is 0, I probably just want to return nothing, right? The empty string in our case, the empty string. Okay, so I'm going to return empty string. So right, I'm gradually chopping it down from 0 to 4, and then 0 to 3, and then 0 to 2. Let's see here, right? Because the string itself is being chopped. Let's see if that works. Oh yeah, so extend that. Okay, so we can see is that it is kind of close, but it's returning, instead of H star, E star, L star, L star, O star, it's returning a star in front. Star H, star E, or star L, star. So I've got one extra star in the front. One extra star in the front. So if I look, this makes sense, because let's trace this. So I go all the way down, right? I'm just saying, I'm defining what's calling all star and hello mean? It's calling all star and hell concatenated with this. So I come all the way down. So I return star H. Oh, and I see it. This, I didn't want this actually. I didn't want this. So I don't want a star in the beginning plus H. I just want to have H. So really my base case should stop here. So my base case should not be when length is 0. Let's stop when length is 1. And I don't want to return star H. I just want to return H, right? So it'd return H concatenated with star E. So this result is going to be H star E concatenated with star L. So that will get returned up here, right? This whole thing gets returned up here. That's going to be H star E star L concatenated with this. So it's going to come up as H star E star L star L concatenated with this, which is finally going to come back as H star E star L star L star O, and then we're done. Okay, so let's add a base case when the length is 1. Let's just return whatever this is with no star. Let's just return str. Okay, so if we do that, let's change it from this to if str.length equals 1, return str. Just return that h. And what we see is that almost works. Almost, except now, if I pass in the blank one, it doesn't handle it, right? Our base case doesn't handle it. So in other words, if I pass in the empty string, it wouldn't hit this. And what I would be trying to do is I would take n index, which would be 0 minus 1. So I'm trying to take a substring of 0 up to -1, which doesn't make any sense. So actually, we do have two base cases, right? This will handle this case. This should handle the empty case. So I'm going to put that on top to handle the empty case. Okay, so put curly braces around both of them for consistency's sake. And so now we're passing all the tests. Okay, so again, what's happening is we're calling successively smaller and smaller versions of HELLO. We're chopping one each time and concatenating it with the end. And so again, we get this nice result here of calling all the way down and then hitting our base case here and then popping back up until we get this nice result.